श्री कृष्ण श्री कृष्ण। हरे कृष्ण रीना जी।
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Lalit.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We'll start. I think the show must go on. And we'll start the session currently. Thank you for joining. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Tasta Pravesna Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavate Bhagavati Uttam Sloke Bhagavati Nastaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandinaya Jai Krishna Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasti Gaur Bhakta so welcome everybody. I think the attendance is little less today, but we will continue our session anyway. Let me actually share the presentation.
People will be seeing on YouTube also later, so we just continue the session.
Yeah. So so we'll do a little bit of a recap of chapter 3 in terms of whatever we have learned till now, and start from there. And before we continue on to the second part of the chapter 3, if you saw today, I actually started the session chanting the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra, right? And typically Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is a prayer to Krishna himself, but it's also talks about, how we actually move ahead in our spiritual journey. So if you look at Om basically is a personal representation of Lord Krishna himself. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita multiple times over, first in multiple chapters. So for example, in 7.8, he says, I am the syllabus Om in all the Vedic mantras. And Krishna is clearly saying that Om is not different from him. Om is basically nothing but a sound representation of Krishna or Supreme himself. And Krishna is the original source of Om. Chanting Om with remembrance of Krishna leads to liberation. And chanting the Hare Krishna mantra gives the direct personal connection, right? Prabhupada says actually Om is the impersonal sound representation of Lord of the Supreme Lord. It's a very transcendental vibration. However, Om ultimately refers to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, remembering Krishna while chanting Om leads to liberation. He also clarifies that Om is a preliminary vibration, but the full and personal realization of absolute truth is Krishna, and that's why we chant the whole Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, because it directly addresses the Lord personally. Namo means Om Namo, right? Namo means I bow down, I offer my obeisances. I offer my obeisances. Bhagavate is Bhagwan, which is with all the six opulences. We've learned about the six opulences, right? All beauty, all renunciation, all knowledge, all strength, all wealth, and all fame. The other meaning of Vasudeva is the son of Vasudev itself. And of course, then is Vasudev. Vasudeva means son of Vasudev. But Vasudeva also means Vasu means Vas means live, and Dev means God. So Vasudeva also means the Lord who lives in the heart of a devotee is called Vasudeva. So when we do Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om means it's an impersonal representation of Lord, but it is Lord himself. So if you remember Om at the time of death, and if you remember Krishna while saying Om, you still go get liberation. Namo means I bow down. Bhagavati, you remember the God with all six opulences, and Vasudeva is the personal, very, very personal, association with Krishna himself. So if you look at Gyanis, and we spoke about this in the last session, Gyanis focus on the impersonal representation of God, which basically means they're focusing on the effulgence of the God. They say we go and merge with the effulgence, but we also learned that we always want activity. Beyond a point, we cannot live without activity, right? So even people who go to the effulgence have to come down again, and then till they go to the personal association of the Lord. The yogis focus on the Paramatma in the heart, which is basically they know the Lord as the Lord with six opulences. I spoke about the six opulences, right? So whether Vishnu or Ram, and it's also called as Purushottam. And Vasudeva is Krishna, which is most intimate. Right? It's like yeah, Om is the government of India. Bhagavate is basically the prime minister in parliament. Yeah, and Vasudeva is prime minister at home. So we all want to associate with prime minister at home or Krishna at home because this is the closest association we can get. And hence, when we say the full mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, we are transcending everything and we're saying, Oh Krishna, I bow down to you. Please take me into your association. Right. So, I just thought since we had this prayer, it'd be good for us to just understand what is the prayer about. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You also know that in Kali Yuga, I think the way to get liberation is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And that's why we sing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because that's the direct association with Krishna himself. In the other yugas, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is the mantra to get liberation. But in this yuga, it is direct name of the Lord itself and his internal energy, which is Radharani. So hence Hare Krishna is Radha Krishna, Radha Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radha Radha. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Please take me into your service. That's basically what we pray, right? Oh Krishna, oh Radha, please take me into your service. That's the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And that's why we've been discussing so much about our chanting. And I've been sending messages. All of you have been sharing. Somebody said it's helped me sleep better. Somebody says it gives me peace. So I think, and that's the power of the Maha Mantra, right? So now coming to chapter 3, I think we spoke about the the acronym TREE, right? And T basically stands for Tyaga, or renunciation of work. Right? And Krishna is asking, and Arjuna is asking Krishna, which is better, Krishna? So Krishna tells him, you are a Kshatriya, better for you to do the prescribed duty of fighting. And if you do that as an offering to God, you will gradually become purified, and you'll be then eligible for knowledge and jnana, and then you can be renounced overall. But at the same time, he talks about that you should not be artificially be renounced and grow, right? So we saw some examples of sadhus, who renounce too early but still are attached to material things, and so on and so forth. And then we learned about R, which is the rungs on the yoga ladder. It basically started with karma kanda, karma yoga, jnana yoga, and then bhakti yoga, right? So we learned about saying, at the base level is animal life or atheistic life, right? People who are not concerned about God, about anything. They believe they are the controllers. They live life and they keep taking birth again and again in different forms of life. Then there are people who are doing karma kanda. Karma kanda, somebody who goes to God for material opulences or sense gratification, right? But they are praying to the demigods. They will pray to Indra. They will pray to different demigods to basically get different benedictions, right? Saying, "Meko strength chahiye mujhe, Lakshmi Mata, please give me money. Shiv Ji, please give me, opulences." So that's how they will keep praying, right? Overall. And from Karma Kanda, you go to Sakam Karma Yoga, where you're saying, hey, uh, I want to get something material, but I'm praying to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So I'm praying to the Supreme Lord Krishna, but for fruits, which are material fruits. And from there, we move to Nishkam Karma Yoga, where we say, oh Supreme Lord, I am yours, your controller, which is what we learned, right, in this chapter, that He's the one who's giving us everything: rain, water, sunlight, food, fruits. We also learned how because of what He does, semen comes and kids are born. So everything is given by the Supreme Lord Krishna Himself. So we reach this stage of Nishkam Karma Yoga, where we say, oh Krishna, you are the giver of everything. Whatever I do it for you. I don't want any material attachment, right? I'm not looking for any benefits. I only want purification of the soul, and I only want you, right? Then we learn about reaching the stage of Jnana Yoga, where you're accumulating a lot of knowledge, which essentially then leads to renunciation, overall, right? But that also renunciation is basically saying, I will be part of the God's effulgence and Gyanis, which is what we spoke about. And after some time, people's activity, people want activity, so they come out of it, and again they get into the process. And then we talked about Ashtanga Yoga, where there are some yogis who will want powers. So walking on water, eating fire, and mystic siddhis is what they want. And finally, people reach the highest form, which is Bhakti Yoga, and this is what we call as the extended yoga ladder. Then we spoke about the progressive yoga ladder, which basically says you read Nishkam Karma Yoga and then you read Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, right? That's how you read. But we said the easiest one was basically the express elevator, right? Where you surrender and associate with pure devotees, do sadhana bhakti, and basically get into bhakti very fast. It's like when we have to go to the 52nd floor of a building, would we go walking stairs by stairs and take the extended yoga ladder or the progressive yoga ladder? Or would we simply immediately take the lift and go? And so bhakti is the lift that takes you back to God, right? So this is where we ended overall. And now we get into the third part, right, of our of our chapter, right? And in this, basically, Krishna is telling that, while doing Nishkarma Karma Yoga, so if he finally tells Arjuna that Nishkarma Karma Yoga karo, because I am telling you to fight, right? And you don't worry about who will get killed or who will get killed, because that is already taken care of by me. So he says, while doing Nishkarma Karma Yoga as a Kshatriya, in case your heart becomes purified, your desires have reduced and eliminated, still don't give up the Kshatriya duty. Continue doing it and don't renounce the world, right? That's basically what Krishna is telling. And then, of course, Arjuna asks about examples of who are some of the exemplary karma yogis. So Krishna will go on and explain this. So we'll just go to the shloka uh, of the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll read the shloka, which is the 16th shloka. So while I open the sloka, given that today is a small group, is the understanding of the different yoga ladders clear for everybody? Any questions, any thoughts, anything which is unclear? Reena ji, Rahul, Manish ji, anything?
Ji.
Is it very clear? Or
Yeah, it's
okay.
hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. So I think we can today do a good discussion because we're a small group, right? So if you have anything, we can pause. We don't have to wait for questions at the end. But I think it's very important that we get clarity at every stage.
So Lalit, you mentioned about like if there is some karma, right, and you are desired to do that, but there is an emotion play also, right? अगर कोई चीज right और wrong के बीच में choose करना है and emotion comes, तो how do we basically navigate that? जैसे अभी आपने क्षत्रिय को बोला कि आपका काम ही फाइट का है और उसमें मान लो फाइट करते करते आपके कोई भी आ जाता है जिसमें आपका इमोशनल कनेक्ट है, तो हाउ डू वी व्हाट इज राइट एंड रॉन्ग उसको कैसे नेविगेट करें?
तो कृष्णा, that's the whole piece that Krishna is telling Arjuna कि देखो, आपको अपना कर्मा करना है. आप एक क्षत्रिय हो या आप ब्राह्मण हो या आप वैश्य हो या शूद्र हो, डिपेंड अपॉन व्हाट यू आर, राइट? यू हैव टू कीप डूइंग योर वर्क. But if you do that work without attachment and with attachment to me, without attachment to material things and attachment to me, then you are taken care of, right? So when you're taking an emotional decision, you have to figure out first, is it right? Is it what, for example, we learned about quota last time, right? We learned about doing the right thing versus the right thing. If you're doing with the right thing and without attachment, without saying कि यार इनको ये होएगा, इस वजह से इसको ये होगा वो होगा, आप राइट कर रहे हो तो it will not affect you, and then you leave it to Krishna, saying Krishna, you take care of it, right? That's why the whole process of bhakti where surrender comes in. You say, Krishna, I'm doing this because this is what is right, um, and whatever may happen, I leave it up to you to take care of. So that's when you surrender to the Lord. Then anyway, one, the karma doesn't affect you. Secondly, he takes care of it. Right? So that trust and surrender has to come in. Right? A lot of times, right? In things that we do. Right? So that's how you should always think, saying, hey, I'm doing the right thing. I know emotionally I feel I want to do the other way, but this is the right thing. Whatever will the consequences be, Krishna, I leave it up to you. I surrender to you. You please take care of it. Right? So there are two parts to it. One is surrender, and secondly is doing the right thing. Right?
Got it. Clear.
So, so this is the 16 3.16. So this is what Krishna is saying. Evam pravartitam chakram nanu varthayita yaha agaya indriya ramo mogham partha sajivata. So what is he saying? He says, my dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. Right? So it's what does Prabhupada explain? Actually, he said the Mammonist philosophy of work very hard and enjoy sense satisfaction is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolute necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is specifically meant for self-realization in either of the three ways, namely Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. There is no necessity of rigidly following the performance of the prescribed yagyas for the transgressors who are above vice and virtue. For those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by the above mentioned cycle of yagna performances. There are different kinds of activity. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness. Therefore, they need to execute pious work. The yagna system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reaction of sense gratificatory work. The prosperity of the world not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by the demigods. Therefore, the yagyas are directly aimed at particular demigods mentioned in the Vedas. Indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness because when one masters the performance of yagnas, which is sure to become Krishna conscious, But if by performing yajnas one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles is counted as only moral codes. One should not therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. So what is he saying? He's saying that, if you have to become purified, right? You may perform the yagyas, right, in a certain sense. But if the yagyas are only focused on demigods to get material things, then it will not lead you to Krishna consciousness. So if you want to get to Krishna consciousness, then you have to reach the highest form of yajna, which is what we've learned, right? Which is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is the highest form of Sankirtana yajna. We call it Sankirtana yajna, which is, which is chanting the holy names of the Lord, right, and remembering the Lord. So I'll go back to the presentation. Right. So then, so then I think then Krishna asks, then Arjuna asked Krishna, right? Are there any examples of people who live a life like this, who are offering their results to? Because you told me to be at the platform in Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is fight as a Kshatriya and leave the results to me. And I'm doing this because you are telling me to do it without worrying about what happens, right? So then Arjuna asks Krishna, right, are there any examples? And then Krishna actually quotes Janak Maharaj. Right? Overall, here he's quoting that, he's saying, who can give up all the work, Arjuna? Hear it here, right? And again, we go to the actually from the 3.17. So 3.17. Sure. So what is he saying? Yah tu atmarati eva syad atmatripta cha manavaha atmani eva cha santusta tasya karyam na vidyate. So he's saying, but for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is for self-realization, and who's satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. He says, Prabhupada explains, a person who's fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied with the acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed. An effect of many, many thousands of yajna performances. So, which is what we spoke about, right? All the yajnas, if you become Krishna conscious, reach the level of bhakti yoga, everything gets cleansed, right? So, you don't need to perform the yajnas as given in the Vedas. By such cleansing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of the eternal position in relationship with the Lord. His duties thus become self-illuminated by the grace of Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to any Vedic injunction. So very clearly, he's saying whatever is yagnas that are mentioned in the Vedas, you don't need to go through that process. Bhakti yoga, if you reach the platform of bhakti yoga, where you are chanting the holy name of the Lord, I spoke about ABCD, right? Association, ABCD, right? Chanting, devotional service, all of those pieces, right? So he says a person who does that no longer has any obligations to Vedic instructions. He becomes self-eliminated. Such a Krishna conscious person is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and similar infatuations, right? The presentation back. Right? So what is he saying in 17 and 18, right? The self-realized person has no duty. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, which is Atma Rati, who's satisfied in the self, which is Atma Tripta, who's fully sated in himself alone, there is no obligation to do any prescribed actions, no taste for material pleasures, no purpose or gain in performing such actions, no reason for not performing such work too, no need to depend on any other living entities or any demigods. Right? So what is Krishna telling him? He's telling Arjuna, when a person is Atmarati, which is the first part of what you read here, right? He is he is taking pleasure in the self, which is his Atma. He doesn't take pleasure in self gratification, right? He says, since See, I can connect my mind to the sense objects in this world, namely Janam, Dharmam, Sundaram, and allow my mind to chase after them along with my senses. That is called Indrarami. So, person who's saying, I'm connecting my mind to the sense objects, right? Janam, Dharam, Sundaram means Janam means taking birth again and again. Dharam means going on doing my duties, material duties. Sundaram is beauty. And saying, I'm allow my mind to chase after them, then that person is called Indira Rama, right? Which is what we learned in the last part of this, the chapter 3. Atmarati is one who can connect with Krishna in his mind and his heart through devotion to Krishna and fixity on the Supreme Brahman. Right? One can experience either Bhakti Ananda or Brahmananda. So we saw our Supreme Brahman is basically the effulgence, which is Brahmananda, and Bhakti Ananda is connecting with Krishna himself. And that person is called as Atmarati, right? Which means the connection to inside. Inside there is inside pleasure and not outside pleasure, right? So that's the understanding of Atmarati, the person who gets inside pleasure through devotion to Krishna, right? And is not dependent upon the outside senses, which is the Indra Rama, right? On outside senses as a gratification to be satisfied, right? So that's a person who's Atmarati. And Atma Tripta means that he's satisfied in self, doesn't complain. For example, we may go on a trip and वो बोले यार ये accommodation अच्छा नहीं दिया, शादी में जा रहे हो खाना इन्होंने ठीक से नहीं खिलाया. That a person who is Atma Tripta, that means who's satisfied in self, is fully satisfied alone. He is not dependent upon the outside conditions to be satisfied. He's tripta in himself. Tripta means he is satisfied in himself. He doesn't complain, right? He's satisfied himself alone. He's not dependent upon anybody. He's not dependent upon any demigods to give him anything. He's not dependent on other people to give him anything. He's satisfied in oneself and only dependent upon Krishna, which is Atma Santushta, right? And when you reach the stage of Atma Santushta, you may do work or you may not do any work. You will do basically whatever Krishna tells you to do. Right? So this way, Krishna is telling Arjuna that Atma Rati is a very advanced stage. Right now, you just focus on become Sthita Prajna, means just be stable and do your duties and leave your and reach the platform on Nishkam Kam Yoga. Don't try and become an Atma Rati. Atma Rati means don't do any work, right? You have to do your Nishkam Kam Yoga right now, right? So that's what he's telling Arjuna, right? So this is what he's saying, right? Tasmad ashakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharam karma param apnoti purusha. So Krishna is telling me, therefore, Arjuna, I'm telling you, do your prescribed duty as a Kshatriya without attachment to fruits, which means give the fruits to God, to give to me. Because God only gives you everything else. So we learned that the sun, moon, body, senses, everything is given by Him Himself, right? By the Supreme Lord Himself. It's like I get a carpenter. I tell him, hey, this is the tree, you can cut it. I'm giving you the instruments to do it. And you use this to create a table for me. So he makes the table and he says, oh, I like the table so much. Can I take it home? Can he take it home? What do you think? Can he take the table home? Tell me yes or no. So I've given him the tree, I've given him the wood, I've given him the instruments, I've given him everything. And now he says, oh, I built the table, but table बहुत अच्छी है, मैं लेके जा रहा हूँ. Can he take
No,
the
you cannot.
He cannot, right? So I'll tell him, hey, I gave you everything, I gave you equipment. Now you give the fruits to me, and I'll give you a remuneration for performing this work, right? Similarly, there's a zamindar, right? And the zamindar has land, and he gives the land to the gardener, he gives the seeds, he gives the khad, he gives equipment, he gives everything else. The gardener sows it, he puts water, and he does everything, and there are beautiful flowers and fruits that come out of it, right? The gardener plucks all the flowers and the mango fruits. They say they're so nice. Can he take it? No, he cannot. He has to give it to the zamindar, who will give him some salary at the end of the month. Same manner, when we offer our fruits to God and return, we only ask for purifying my heart. And purifying this heart, which is the mentality of an atheist, of being a controller, of being an enjoyer, of being victimized by lust, anger, and greed. So Krishna will cleanse our heart, right? If you offer our fruits to him, right? And the question will be next day, why is he taking the fruits? Because the fruits will harm us, right? We learned about quota last time. So if we overeat beyond a quota, we have digestive problems, right? Overall, right? Similarly, Krishna says, whatever I'm giving you, that is best for you, right? And that's why he takes away everything else which is beyond you, and that's why you offer it back to him, right? So, same way, right? We keep asking, oh, at this stage of life, why do I have this much money? Or why don't I have a bigger stage, bigger house at this stage of life, right? We should understand that at this stage of life, whatever we have is the best for us. If we get more, we are not ready and it will harm us. We keep hankering after something or the other and we keep being unhappy, saying, इसके मेरा friend है, हम दोनों ने साथ में पढ़ा था, उसके पास इतना है, मेरे पास इतना है. What is the point? For you, what you get, you have right now is your quota, and that quota will keep you happy. If you get anything beyond that, you will not be a happy, right? It's like a mother, right? A mother giving some pizza to the kids, and she's like, तुमने 3 slice खा लिए, अब इसके बाद और नहीं खाओ. But the kid will say, no, mama, I want more, I want more, I want more. So what will happen? If the kid eats 2 more slices, 3 more slices, then the kid will complain, I'm a stomachache. Because the mother knows this is the quota, this is what you should be eating. Right? It's like that Krishna is taking care of us. And he's telling us, right? Because ये आपके लिए इतना अभी enough है, you'll be happy with this. If you go beyond this quota, it will not work for you and it will cause you more problems. And hence, being satisfied with what we have is an important part of it. And then whatever we get, we offer it to the Lord, right? That's why we spoke about saying we should say, okay, if you're earning this much, 10%, 5%, whatever that percentage is always offered back to Krishna. Because that is also best for us. And by offering it back to Krishna, we are offering our fruits to him, right? In that sense. If God has given us some skills, right? So we offer this, we use those skills in service of the Lord, right? You're a finance person, you're a CA, you may be a marketer, you may be an HR person, you may be, any other skill that you have. You may be a coder. How do you use that skill for Krishna? So ensure that along with whatever you're doing materially, if you're a grasta, offers use the same service, if not money, then use your skills for Krishna. Get opportunities to do that. You can go to a temple and say, I'll help you manage your accounts or finance. I'm a CA, I will do that. Temple wants to raise funds, so you say, I'm a marketer, I'll help you, in marketing, right? You're an HR person. Say, I'll help you with salaries and people and everything else. So whatever your skills may be, you can use the skills. Or if you're a businessman or you're earning money, you don't have time, then say, I will a percentage of it that I'll offer to Krishna. You have food being made at home. Offer it to Krishna as a bhoga before you eat it, right? Then the food becomes purified. Otherwise, food is sinful because even if you're eating non-vegetarian, of course you're killing someone. But even vegetarian, the plants are live. But Krishna said, I take fruits, I take flowers, I take water. So Krishna sanctified that food. So if you offer that sanctified food to Krishna, then even vegetarian food you don't get any karma because Krishna has accepted that food and you're eating it and you run it as per your quota, right? Is this concept clear?
Lalit, two things. One,
Yeah.
basically you said कि जितना मिल रहा है that is sufficient, right? जो पर्याप्त है वही, right?
हाँ.
But aspiring for more, like for example, I am at this stature of life, right? But in the right direction, if I aspire more, is that wrong? But अगर मैं aspire ही नहीं करूंगा तो मेरे पास will नहीं होगी काम करने की, तो वो कैसे correlate कर रहे हैं?
Aspire करना चाहिए. There's no harm in aspiring. But at the same time, you should not be comparing yourself to others and saying this is
हाँ,
what I have.
comparing नहीं करना.
हाँ, comparing नहीं करना, right? तो आप aspire
Yeah.
करो, of course, go for the highest position, highest level that you can do. But in this sense of Krishna consciousness, that I am doing this, whatever I'm doing, I'll offer these as fruits to Krishna. So you may become the CEO of your company, but ensure that a big part of your salary or you're serving the temple or you're doing something for Krishna on that behalf. So there's no aspiration should not be killed. Aspiration should remain what it remains, right? But aspiration should say that the more I get, the more I will offer it back to Lord, right? Overall. For
Got it.
example, I met
Got
a
it.
entrepreneur. I think we had this nice meetup of Krishna conscious entrepreneurs early Jan. And this person company is already valued a few billion dollars, right? Is he stopping his company from going big? No, he's continuing to go full steam on making the company more bigger. But he said he's promised as part of his thing to his shareholders that whenever I exit, 50% of whatever I earn will go back to Krishna, right? So he's not saying, so which means if he sells the company at a $5 billion, $10 billion, he makes a billion. He's saying 500 million will go to Krishna. So he's not stopping his aspiration, but he's very connected that whatever I'm doing it for Krishna, right? I meet so many people who say that I earn so much, I will use it in my guru's service. That doesn't mean they're not earning or they're not scaling, but basically they're committing that whatever we earn, a part of that will go in my guru service, right? So like that, aspiration should not be killed, but you should be Krishna conscious while you're doing that. At the same time, I also told you about things you should not be doing. Like for example, don't work in industries and businesses that are not sanctified. Like for example, an alcohol or a tobacco business or a meat eating or a animal killing business. So there's certain things that you should not be doing because those are sinful things to do. To earn money or to get things, you should not be doing sinful things. Right? Clear?
Yes, clear.
So when Arjuna asked, right, are there examples of people who are living by this Nishkam Karma Yoga life? So Krishna actually sets the example of Janak Maharaj, right? So he says, Karmani hi samsiddham astita janaka dhaya loka sangraham yuvapi sampayasam kartrumatarthi. So basically he's saying that Janak he's saying Janak Videha. It is said it has double meaning. Videha is a place which is Janakpuri, which is the where Janak Maharaj palace was. But Videha also means he who lived life without a material body, right? Do we know who's King Janaka? Anybody knows who's King
Ram,
Janaka?
Ram's father, no?
Ram
Lord Ram's
father-in-law.
father-in-law, yes.
Yeah, so he's the father or mother Sita, right? He's the king of Mithila and a very highly realized soul. He was also known as Raja Rishi or a saintly king. And of course, also called as Videha, right? Meaning someone who lives beyond bodily identification. He was in a material body, but he remained unattached to the material body. And he ruled a very powerful kingdom. He lived in a palace, he managed wealth and responsibilities, yet he remained completely detached internally, right? So Krishna says that kings like King Janaka attain perfection simply by performing their prescribed duty. So he was performing his duties, but he still went back to God. He still attained perfection. Right? So Krishna gives Janaka as a proof saying that you don't have to renounce the world externally to become spiritually perfect. You can attain liberation through dutiful action without attachment. Right? So let's understand how was Janaka detached. He ruled as a service, right? Not ownership. Everything that he had, he saw it as Krishna's property. He only acted as a caretaker and not as an enjoyer. Second, he was fixed in self realization. Though he was surrounded by the utmost luxury, everything that anybody can dream of, his consciousness was absorbed in the self and in dharma. And in fact, there's a very famous story of his detachment. One day, Janak Maharaj was sitting and he was hearing Katha. And then suddenly his some part of his palace caught fire. So one of his people came and told him, Maharaj, आग लग गई है वहां पर. Right? So while everybody was panicking, Janaka Maharaj calmly told his minister, go and check and do everything to douse the fire. And he kept hearing the katha. Right? So the minister went and they were trying to douse the fire. However, all the other people who were sitting there started to run. They were catching their dhoti and running and see if their house is not burned or something like that. No, although the arrangement was made by the king to put out the fire, they still wanted to run and see. They were so attached to things. So Janaka was actually a king, a very great king, that even he could handle such a crisis with a cool head because he knew Krishna is in control and he will let Krishna do the rest. And he played the role of a detached, great householder king. Hey, and I mean, in his mind, he knew nothing of mine is burning because internally he knew that he owned nothing. Right? So, what does Janaka Maharaj story mean for us, right? Most of us are not meant to leave our jobs, family, society, business, and all. So, Janaka Maharaj shows us that you can work, you can lead, you can earn, and you can manage responsibilities. But internally, you remain detached, you remain God-centered, and you remain duty-focused. And that is basically karma yoga in action, right? So, in a sense, Janaka Maharaj's story proves that spiritual perfection is not about changing your position. It's about changing your consciousness, right? It teaches us that live in this world, act responsibly, offer everything to Krishna, and remain unattached internally, right? Overall. And that's the path of Janak Maharaj. Of course, there are many other kings like Yudhishthir Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, Amrish Maharaj, also you can quote. But typically, Krishna himself quotes Janak Maharaj because it doesn't mean that Krishna conscious means सब छोड़ के भाग जा, right? He's saying do what you do, but remain unattached internally, and offer whatever you have for Krishna. Act responsibility for what you have. Live in this world. So same, right? What happens is when we start Krishna consciousness, हमें लगता है क्या हम फैमिली में हैं, क्या हो रहा है, ये सब छोड़ के हमें जंगल चले जाते हैं, which is what Arjuna is also saying, right? When he learned about everything from Krishna, he's saying, I want to become a sannyasi. And what am I doing? Why am I fighting? So Krishna is bringing him back saying, hey, you're a Kshatriya, you're supposed to fight. But you can fight in a manner where you're doing it, you're offering it to me, and you're remaining unattached with your family, relatives who you think are on the other side, who will get killed, who will die, because those are all the reasons he used, right? He was worried about his body, he was worried about the body of his relatives, his uncles, his teachers, his everybody else. And that's why Krishna teaches about Nishkamkam Yoga and gives the example of Janaka Maharaj. In fact, Krishna himself was a king of Dwarka. He married 16,108 wives. But he would maintain all the queens. He would wake up early in the morning. He would he would also perform all his duties. He would perform yajna. He would chant. He would give charity to the Brahmin. He would do everything to give example to everybody in Dwarka and to all of us as householders, right? That saying, be there with the family, be present, live a life full of values, donate money, give children values, eat prasadam, get up early in the morning, do your prayers, chant in the morning, go to the temple, do your duty, come back and spend time with the family, be present for the family. So Krishna himself, by his example, gave us this, and he didn't need to do this. But basically, he said that people in general would see how I live a life, and so he would do exactly what we are supposed to do, right? So it's a very important thing that Krishna himself, being the supreme Lord, unlimited, all powerful, all attractive, not controlled by karma, not driven by lust, you performed his duties to show us that what it really means, right? Then, I think somebody asked this question last time. Krishna had 16,000 wives. So, he has so many wives. What does it really mean for me? So one, I think we have to understand that Krishna is not a conditioned human. Krishna is Bhagwan. He's the supreme personality of Godhead, right? He's unlimited. He's powerful. He's attractive. He's not controlled by karmas, no lust. And we are just tiny, limited souls under material laws, right? You cannot compare the infinite with the finite, right? Secondly, we also spoke about the 16,000 wives. What happens? There were princesses, 16,100 princesses were kidnapped and imprisoned by this demon called Narakasura. In that society, women who were kidnapped could not return home. So they prayed to Krishna for protection, and Krishna married them to restore their honor. So his marriage to the 16,100 wives was protection, it was social rehabilitation because he's a king. It was compassion and not exploitation. Thirdly, to all his wives, Krishna did not behave like ordinary man. Bhagavatam explains that he expanded into 16,108 forms simultaneously. He lived separately with each queen. He used to spend time with them, with the kids from each of his wives. He was personally present with each one. And this demonstrates divinity, not material behavior. A conditioned human like us cannot do this, right? Fourthly, the point is that this was lust. This was not lust, but divine love, right? Material lust means desire to enjoy for oneself. But spiritual love means desire to give pleasure to Krishna. And Krishna is Atma Ram, he's self-satisfied. He does not need anyone for pleasure. So his relationships are pure, spiritual, transcendental, and it's free from any selfish desire, right? So should we imitate? Right? No, that's what Krishna is saying in this shloka. Great persons set examples, but not everything they do is meant to be imitated. For example, Lord Shiva drinks poison. Can we drink poison? Lord Krishna lifted Govardhan hill on his little finger. Can we do that? Krishna killed all these demons. Can we do that? So similarly, Krishna marrying 16,100 queens is not an act of is an act of the supreme God. It's not a moral license for humans to think anything. Krishna is God. He's unlimited. He can expand infinitely. He can reciprocate individually, and we are just limited souls under karma. Therefore, imitation is ignorance, right? Krishna's multiple marriages shows his unlimited nature, his ability to reciprocate with every devotee personally, his complete independence from material law, and it also demonstrates his Aishwarya or opulence and not immorality, right? And I think when atheists ask this question, the real issue is that they think Krishna is a mythological human, right? So the deeper question for us to ask is, do we accept Krishna as the supreme Lord? And if yes, there is no contradiction. If no, then the discussion shifts to theology and not morality, right? So I thought this was important to when we're covering how Krishna lived his life. I thought I'll cover, and given that this was the question. So Srila Prabhupada always said, right? First understand Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Then first understand the Bhagavad Gita. Then purify your heart by chanting. Right? Then only this can be properly understood. Otherwise, this is all misunderstood. Right? Clear? So if anyone ever talks to you on this, then there's a very simple way you can explain this, right? Okay. Now Krishna is telling, so Arjuna asks, right? Krishna, okay, you're telling me to do this, but what do I do with people who have an impure heart? What should you tell them? So Krishna tells him, right? You set an example for them. Don't disturb the ignorant, right? So Krishna is very clear saying that ignorant people will continue to do what they do, but you don't touch them. But as devotees, typically they say devotees have been more merciful than Krishna. So we try our best to tell ignorant people what they do. At the same time, if people are not taking up to Krishna consciousness beyond a point, we don't waste our time with them, right? Because people get attracted to the Lord basis, how much bhakti they have had in the last life and so on and so forth. It's the highest form of thing that you can do, right? Of spiritual enlightenment that you can do, right? Yeah, so this is the same thing Krishna saying, when I engage in work, if I ever fail to engage carefully, all men would certainly follow my path. All these words would be put to ruination. I would be the process of creating unwanted population, right? And I would therefore destroy the peace of all living beings, right? Then Krishna is explaining the concept of an attached worker and a detached worker. Right? An ignorant person thinks that everything is mine. He thinks I'm a billionaire. I became a billionaire from being a beggar. I worked hard and everything is mine. I came from such a small village and see how much I've got. Oh, it's all by my sweat. I've developed. I have achieved so much in my life. Right? The fact is that everybody in this world is affected by the three gunas, the sattva, rajaguna, and tamoguna, right? And all the qualities we have are given by Krishna only. For example, if you do a race between a dog and a horse, who do you think will come first? Horse, right? Similarly, if you do a barking competition between the horse and the dog, who will win first prize? Will dog. So the horse can the horse be proud that he came first in running, or can the dog be proud that he won in barking? Both these animals got their bodies; they were gifted by nature through God. So therefore, if I can sing very nicely, the vocal cord is given by Krishna, and so I can sing very nicely. So it is a gift of God. Even Einstein got his brain from God. Did Einstein create his own brain? No, God gave this genius brain to Einstein. But atheists don't understand this. They are all attached workers. So Krishna says, let them gradually come to the karma kanda, the sakam karma yoga, the nishkam karma yoga, and gradually come to Krishna consciousness or bhakti yoga. right? So that's what Krishna is trying to make him understand, right? Um, yeah. Then Krishna talks about that, you know, this is the first time actually in this chapter, Krishna talks about bhakti. So in 2.61, he says, Tani Sarvani, in actually in the second chapter, he talks about this. Tani Sarvani Samyam Chukta Sita Mat Para. In this, Mat means bhakti to Krishna. Krishna is telling Arjuna to surrender to him and become his devotee. Now in this 30th shloka, which is in this shloka that you see here, Krishna is saying the same. He says, see, Arjuna, you don't have to take sannyas and go to forest. You have to sannyas all your activities to me, right? Overall. And with spiritual consciousness, knowing me to be God, offer all your activities to me. Right? For you are a warrior, and I'm requesting you to fight as part of your dharma yuddha. Do this as an offering to me. If you do it to me, he says, Nirasir Nirmano Bhutva Yans, means you don't think you are doing everything. I'm guiding you. In fact, he showed in the 11th chapter, he in fact showed to Arjuna also. And in fact, he says in the 11th chapter, Tasmat tvam utishta yaso labhasva jitva satrun bhusva rajam samridham mayavate nihataha purvam eva nimittamatram bhavaha savya sachin. So what does it says? Maya yate nihata purvam eva. He's saying these people are already put to death by my arrangement. And oh you, oh Savyasachi, you can be an instrument in the fight. He showed that Duryodhana, Karna, Jayadratha, everybody was entering the mouth of the faming Vishwarupa. Krishna showed the Vishwarupa in the 11th chapter. You will see that. And he showed everybody getting that fire of the mouth of the Vishwarupa. Right? In fact, Krishna is telling you have my mercy, I can kill them on my own, but I'm making you an instrument. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna, now Arjuna, you say you will do everything. I don't need I don't need to do anything. But Krishna will say, oh, but if I don't need to do anything, he may become lazy. So Krishna is saying, don't be lazy also. You fight and offer the fruits to me. And this is the first time in the chapter he says that those who follow my teachings, they become free. Yeah. Yeah. And this is in the next shloka. He talks about this muchante te api karma bhi. Right? Overall. And these two shlokas, 31 and 32, are very important, right? I'll just actually read the shlokas. Any questions and any thoughts? Is it clear?
Clear.
Neeraj ji, Manish ji, any clear? Any questions? Anything which is not clear?
Everything is clear.
So 3.31. So what is he saying? ये मैं मतम इदम नित्यम अंतुस्सन्ति मानवाः श्रद्धावन्तो अनसूयन्तो मुच्यन्ते ते अपि कर्मभिः. So you think those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow these teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of repetitive actions. 32, he says, ये तु इताद अभ्यासयन्तो नानु तिष्ठन्ति मे मतम सर्वज्ञाना विबुधमस्तान विद्धि नास्तान अचेतसा. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Right? Go back to the slide. Right? So if you see these two shlokas, 31 and 32, one is affirmative and one is negative. In one, he is saying those who follow my teachings, they get liberated and go back to God. Another one is saying who don't follow my teachings and have envy for me, they do everything independently and do not follow my path, they will become un-Krishna conscious, or unconsciousness is spiritual life, and they will slide down to hell. Right? So very clearly Krishna is saying that, right? There can't be a better and an easier way to understand this, right? Who follow his teachings, they get liberated and go back to Godhead. Who do not follow, they slide down to hell. It's a very, very clear, as direct as anything that Krishna can get. And as you can see in the picture also in this slide, right? One person, one person is going to Vaikuntha. So the Vaikuntha plane has come to take him back to Godhead, right? And the other person is given by Rakshasa and being killed by Rama, right? So it's I think this is the most direct Krishna has got on this understanding, right? So one question may arise, right? Krishna, you have said those who don't follow my path, they will get punishment. But what if, so Arjuna is now asking for us, people like us, right? He's saying, if somebody has come to this knowledge, but then do they not act sinfully? For people who are aware of the punishment, why do they still act sinfully sometimes? And what to speak of other people who are not even aware of the punishment? So I think, so the key is to understand is there are two kinds of people. People who are aware and people who are unaware. For those people are impelled to act sinfully, Krishna says, for people who are aware, right? Krishna says this is due to deep-rooted conditioned nature of many lifetimes. Because so many lifetimes we've gone without becoming Krishna consciousness. So because of a conditioning, we still end up doing mistakes, right? It's like if you are in a train and you put a sudden brake, the train doesn't stop there. It will stop after 30 feet or 40 feet or whatever that distance will be, right? Never the train stops immediately, right? Similarly, Krishna says if you come to Karma Yoga and Nishkan Karma Yoga, it will take time. You need to be patient and not expect purification overnight, right? For example, you have a dog and the dog has got parasites, right? You take him to the doctor and the doctor says that don't touch him for some time because these parasites will affect you also. But when you come home, the dog comes to you and he wants to lick you and hug you. So what do? You tell the dog, hey, don't come here. But do you think the dog will obey you? He will come again and again. So what will you do? You will possibly tie him or keep him in another room because he's harmful to you, right? Same happened, right? Even in COVID, right? When your parent or husband or wife had COVID, they locked themselves in another room. Na? You told them stay in another room. So the other family members don't get it, right? And you would also be careful, right? You would leave the food plate outside, not come in contact with the person. You would give disposable stuff so that the person could throw it, so that you don't get the virus. And sometimes you would even tell them to go to the hospital. Right? Similarly for us, right? Habits are also like this dog, which will stay for a long time. And like a dog, it will take time. Gradual purification is needed, right? Right. So then Arjuna is asking, instead of doing my Kshatriya duty, what if I do the Brahmanical duties? Is it all right? So Krishna is telling him, no, everybody should do their duties born of their nature. One should not do somebody else's duty. And this may lead to disaster. Right? So I'll actually read it. It's a good purport Prabhupada has written on the 35th sloka. Let me get that. So what is 35th Hare Krishna says? Shreya swadharmo viguna paradharmat swa anustistat swadharmane nidhana shreya paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty. For to follow another's path is dangerous. So what is Krishna saying? One should therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness rather than those prescribed for others. Materially prescribed duties are duties enjoined according to one's psychophysical condition under the spell of the modes of material nature. Spiritual duties are as ordered by the spiritual master for the transitional service of Krishna. But whether material or spiritual, one should stick to his prescribed duties even up to death, rather than imitate other person's duties. Duties on the spiritual platform and duties on the material platform may be different, but the principle of following the authorized direction is always good for the performer. When one is under the spell of the modes of material nature, one should follow the prescribed rules for his particular situation and should not imitate others. For example, a Brahmana who's in the mode of goodness is non-violent, whereas Kshatriya who's in the mode of passion is allowed to be violent. As such, for a Kshatriya, it is better to be vanquished following the rules of violence than to imitate a Brahmana who follows the rules of non-violence. Everyone has to cleanse his heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. However, when one transcends the mode of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In that complete stage of Krishna consciousness, the Kshatriya may act as a Brahmana or a Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya. In the transcendental stage, the distinctive distinctions of the material world do not apply. For example, Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later he acted as a Brahmana, whereas Parshurama was a Brahmana, but later he acted as a Kshatriya. So only in a transcendental stage, these distinctions don't matter. Right? Being transcendently situated, they could do so, but as long as one is on a material platform like all of us, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have a full sense of Krishna consciousness. Right? So then again, so then when Krishna hears this, he asks about what Dronacharya. So Krishna tells him he should not be doing what he's doing. Dronacharya is a Brahmin. He's fighting. It's not his role. And lots of acharyas have given commentary on this. He's saying Dronacharya is supposed to act like a Brahmin. Right? And which you read in the purport also. Only if you're beyond the three gunas, which is the sattva, rajas, and tamas, in very advanced elevated stage, then you act transcendently, right? But that is another platform. So Krishna tells him, you are not on that platform. Stick to your duty, Arjuna. Right? Right. So now the last part of the chapter 3, which is basically the enemy of the soul. Right? Just 1 second. Sorry. Yeah. So the last part, which is enemy of the soul, right? So strong attachment to that which is prohibited to us is the enemy of the soul. Like Arjuna had a strong attachment to renouncement, right? But his mind is telling him repeatedly, renounce and go to the forest, renounce and go to the forest and don't fight. He wants us to do it, right? We also heard in the last lecture, right, that everything is that we have is given by God. The sun, the moon, the food, the light, the water. He is the supreme controller. We didn't create anything. We're just taking things from him, right? Even factories, they get chemicals, raw materials, machine, metals, manganese, sulfur, everything from nature, right? If you've been a chemistry student, right, you would have seen the manganese periodic table, right? It has about 120 elements. But what it does not have is that they forget to put Krishna on top of the manganese periodic table, right? And that is the role of the karmis, non-devotees who will first remove God from the picture. They don't want to thank God, right? And the question then to ask them is, did you create this? Right? Once you put God in the center of your life, He has given all the things. The question for us is, are we following His instructions? All the quotas that we learned in the last class, are we following it? And I think that's something for us to think about. Right? So our desire to go outside the quota is what is called as the enemy of the soul. Clear? So whatever Krishna has given us, whatever quotas we learned about, the desire to go outside that is called as the enemy of the soul. Right? So purifying means getting elevated, liberated, and going back to Godhead, right? Janma Baddha Vilunmukto Pade Gachantam Namayam. You're supposed to go, but our lust impulses to go outside the quota always. Like Ravana. Right? Ravana had a very beautiful wife called Mandodari, very chaste wife. But he still wanted Sita. And what happened? He got destroyed. Right? Another example, Pandavas were ready to accept 5 villages. Right? Duryodhana could have very much ruled the whole world except those 5 villages, and been the most biggest king ever. But that was his lust. He didn't even want to get 5 villages. And this lust is what transforms into greed. And the enemy of the soul is this lust, which is what we have to curb. Right? Yeah. So now Krishna is talking about raga and dvesha. What is raga? Right? Arjuna asked, right, about Jiva's attachment to the sense objects, even though it is forbidden. And then Krishna explains about raga and dvesha. So raga means attachment to wrong things, and dvesha means aversion to the right things. Right? For example, like rising early in the morning and chanting is a good thing, but we have an aversion for it. हमें लगता है हम थोड़ा और सो जाए, it will be more rest we will get. Who will get up in the early in the morning and do it? So we don't want to get up. We just want to say, oh, let me sleep for a little long time. Similarly, we know overeating is bad. Even in overeating is bad, but we are attached to overeating, right? So then Arjuna asks a question, right? And he's asking, Arjuna vacha atakena prayuto ayam papam charati purusha anichan api vashneya bala divane ojita. So he's saying, what it is, Krishna, in this world, as if somebody is catching me by the neck and impelling me to do some activity, right? So what we have to understand is that Maya can impel us, but can never compel us. For example, I'm in a restaurant, right? My friends are ordering pizza, gulab jamun, a sundae, and everything else. I'm tempted by it, right? But my intelligence will tell me, yeah, it's not healthy. I'm on a healthy diet. I'm trying to lose weight. It will cause me problems. So it can impel me, but they cannot compel me, right? Nobody will put it and say, Zabardasti, khale, 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 right? We can always say we don't want to eat, right? Same way, for example, I go to a party, right? Lots of people are having alcohol. For me, I know it's against the regulative principle. And I know it's not healthy too. I will get drunk, I'll get a hangover, my senses will be disturbed overall. Friends will impel me, right? Bartender will also impel me, kaise, सामने सब पड़ा है, अच्छा खाना. But can anybody open my mouth and put into it? Nobody can compel me, right? It's against my spiritual practices, so I will not do it, right? Similarly, allurements will tempt us, and that's what Krishna is explaining. But they cannot compel us. But if we can get tempted and fall prey to them by getting allured, right? So Krishna is telling Arjuna, right? Kamesha Krodha Isha, my dear Arjuna, enemy of the soul is lust that transforms into anger and it arises from Rajoguna. As far as human being is concerned, he thinks we are like fire covered by smoke, right? If you go into a village, right, they have these boilers and they put a rod in it and stuff like that, and they put fire below it. So you'll see a water in the tank, and they'll put some fire at the bottom, and the top you'll see a lot of smoke is coming. When you touch the water, it will be hot, which means the fire is active. We don't see the fire. Similarly, human body is also like this, right? The smoke covering the fire. Very soon, we can blow and remove the smoke and awaken our spiritual consciousness quickly, which means the spiritual purification can happen very fast, right? And then Krishna also gives the example of a mirror covered by dust, which he compares to animals and birds. They are covered all over. Animals cannot sit down and hear Bhagavad Gita. Birds cannot, you cannot make the bird sit and hear. Then he talks about a womb covering the embryo and he compares it to plants and trees. They're completely out of sight. You can't even see the baby inside, right? So lust actually covers more and more as we move to lower forms of life. Right now we have a human form, already are awakened. If you chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, you can easily understood what is God, what is the meaning of life, like you're hearing this class, what to do and what not to do. And we are very, very, very fortunate to get this human form of life among the 8.4 million species, right? We should not waste it. And we should use it for spiritual awakening. Next life, if we don't become Krishna conscious, covering becomes more and more further we move away from Krishna. And going back to Godhead becomes more difficult. And this is only possible in human life that you can go back to Godhead because you know, as an example Krishna gives, right? You are like fire covered by smoke. the other lower forms of life are very, very far away. So for that, first you have to come to a human form of life, right? So it's a very important warning, right? That you have the human form, use the human form properly. Don't waste this human form like animals, right? Eat, sleep, drink, and have sex, right? Animals also do the same thing, right? We have the consciousness. We just have to remove the smoke from top of that, right? Then Krishna speaks about that lust covers more and more, right? Overall. So he says those who are inquiring about this goal of life, they are called as Brahmanas. Who simply drink, eat, and be merry, they are called as Kripanas. And he says lust is never satisfying, right? So Arjuna may ask exactly where this lust is. So Krishna tells him there are three places. There are the senses, there's the mind, and there are the intelligence. These are the three strategic places where lust is sitting, right? Overall, which you can see in the slide as well, right? So then Krishna tells Arjuna, if you want to conquer it, don't try and conquer intelligence in the mind. It is very difficult. It's very easy to conquer the senses and begin with that. Because senses can be separated from the allurement and attraction more easily than the mind and intelligence can be. So he says, you go work on the senses, out of sight, out of mind. Keep away from temptations. By doing that, keep away from all these allurements that you get, right? For example, you you go out and you see a dirty poster of a dirty movie. You can keep seeing it or you can just walk away from it. Right? So it's very easy to control the senses. Saying it's not good for me, I should not do it. Right? You have people having alcohol. Right? You know it's not good for me, don't see it, walk away from it. Don't go to the bar. Right? Go to places where people are not only drinking overall. It's just very easy to control the senses, right? Overall. Because the simplest way is just out of sight is out of mind, right? Overall, even for our kids, right? If we don't want them to eat anything, first thing we do is we hide it so that they don't see it, right? The phone, the screens that people watch. The best thing is you just hide it, and you are not then spending your whole time on Instagram and YouTube and everything else, right? So first thing is very simple, right? You know it's not good for you, out of sight, out of mind, right? But by doing that, it is the beginning of control, right? So it's the first step immediately. For example, even if people who are addicted to smoking, the first way to do is stop going to the cigarette shop, stop hanging out with friends who are smoking, right? Gradually, it will cleanse the mind by all these practices. So if you see this example, I told this story of Ajamila, I think in one of the classes, right? A Brahmin who got allured by this prostitute and this lower class man enjoying each other in the jungle, and then how he fell down and he became a big sinner himself, and so on and so forth. So what is the mistake he did, right? Um, he continued to watch this bad scene of a low class man embracing a low class woman, right? If you see what he's trying to do, he's trying to control his mind. So he's seeing them and he's remembering some shlokas. He's trying to remember something from the scripture, but he's not taking his eyes away from the senses, right? And he's continuing to see all of that. So what should he have done? First, he should have taken the eyes away from it and run away. And when running away, he should have said the shlokas and scriptures, right? He's watching like this and saying shlokas. The senses have not moved away, and senses are feeding impurity to the mind, and that is the problem, right? So we have to study the mind gradually by deliberate spiritual intelligence, right? All the five senses, which is our eyes, ear, nose, skin, and tongue, they're supplied with various sense objects in the world, which we are attracted. And lust makes our senses go outwards and try to enjoy the world. We become forgetful of ourselves, the soul, God, purpose, life, etc., everything, right? So Krishna is telling you, one who is not Krishna conscious is subject to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. These senses require real engagement. And if they are not engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. So somebody may ask, is it necessary to think about going to God? Why can't we simply enjoy? If enjoyment was possible, we knew the whole world could do it. Arjuna is the greatest warrior. He has everything, but he's already crying. He's attached to relatives bodies which are dying away. These enjoyments look like these things look like enjoyment to him. Like they seem like nectar, but we know later it's a poison. Right? One has to get to that Sukham stage, which is called as Brahma Sukham. Right? And Brahma Sukham is eternal happiness, right? And not to temporary happiness. Right? If you look at all these yogis and brahmanas and sannyasis and brahmacharis, and if you go to the ISKCON temple, right? They are not fools that they leave everything and run away. What they get is the Brahma Sukham. They get so much ocean of bliss and love with God, and that is why they do what they do. Right? So there's a very nice words, right? Ramante yogino anante satyanande chit atmani iti rama padanesu param brahma bhidhiyate. It says yogis are also enjoyers, but they are doing ananta, which is unending enjoyment, spiritual bliss. They get satyananda. What we get from our senses is nityananda, cheating pleasure, right? What you get from spiritual life is satyananda, true bliss. Chit Atmani means in the soul we experience that true bliss. And that's why Krishna talks about the ladder, right? Where we went through right now. Right? It's like go to Bhakti Yoga, it's like going to rather lift straight to the spiritual world. And we can give up the lusty propensity of the senses by sticking to the quota. Right? And then that's what Prabhupada actually explains that there are four regulative principles we want to follow in life. Please write it down if you need to write it down. Very important four regulative principles in life, right? We call it GIMI, GIMI, right? What is GMI? We should follow these four regulative principles. Gambling, never do gambling. I is intoxication, M is meat eating, and I is illicit sex. GIMI. If you live by these four related principles, give up these four, give me, right? Gambling, intoxication, meat eating, and illicit sex. And we chant Hare Krishna and follow the quota and live a regulated lifestyle, very easily to rise above lust and go back to Godhead. Right? So it's a very, very simple process. Four regulative principles: no gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex. Right? Chant Hare Krishna, follow the quota, go back to Godhead. Right? It's the most simplest form of getting that eternal happiness, which is Satyananda, right? And not Nityananda, which is cheating happiness, which is temporary in this life, right? So, you have to understand it's like a circle, right? Thoughts, it starts with thought, then meditation of thoughts, then action basis those thoughts, then experience, then habit, then association and sangha. Actually, I'll draw it for you. You can see this screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you will start from thought, then it goes into meditation about the thought, right? Then you take action basis the thought, then you get experiences, right? And then it becomes yeah. You can see this thing, right? Yeah. Then experiences, then habit, right? And then you see association of, I don't know, again and again something happens. then you see then you seek association of people like those, and then this continues, right? So it's a vicious cycle, right? So if the same philosophy works even for spiritual things, if you think about Krishna, you meditate about Krishna, you actually go to a temple, you chant and everything else, you experience, go for a yatra, go to Vrindavan, do all of that, then it becomes a habit for you. You get association of other devotees, and you go back to Krishna consciousness. Same, you think about bad things, you think about you think about having parties, enjoying drinking, you think about watching pornographic material, you keep meditating, then you take action, then you want an experience, then that becomes a habit, and then you go to hell, right? So the same process actually works both for spiritual as well as material things. It's a vicious cycle, right? And hence it's important to control our senses, right? The urge to speak, not falling into the mind's demand, control our anger, control the urge of the tongue to eat and say things which are not good, or eat things which are not good for it, the urge of the belly and the urge of the genitals, right? In fact, it's very beautifully explained by Srila Rupa Goswami, who is one of the main Goswamis in the Gaudiya Vaishnava, where he talks about these six things: the urge to speak, the urge to not to fall to mind's demands, anger, urge of tongue, and so on and so forth. So he explains urge to speak. He calls it vacho vegam. He's taking urge to speak, talking nonsense, gossip, criticism, useless debate. Speech should be truthful, beneficial, and Krishna-centered. Engage speech in kirtan and harikatha. Then he talks about controlling the mind's demand. We call it manasa vegam. He says the restless mind continuously pulls towards material thoughts. Control comes by fixing the mind on Krishna through chanting and service. Then he speaks about anger, and he calls it krodha vegam. He says anger arises from frustrated desire. If you look at any time you get angry, it's frustration. And it's something you want to happen and it's not happened, and that's why you get angry, right? So he said it should not be used for personal ego, but can be used in Krishna's service like Hanuman. Like Hanuman got angry, right? But he used it for Krishna's service. Then the urge of the tongue, we call it Jiva Vegam. It says craving for tasty food and uncontrolled speech. Control begins by honoring only Krishna conscious prasadam, which is Bhoga, right? Krishna, and Prabhupada often emphasized controlling the tongue and all other senses can be controlled. So Prabhupada actually, when he went to the US, he would make prasadam for like hippies and everybody. And he would make lots and lots of prasad, akela baitse. And through the prasadam, he made them purified. And then, of course, by hearing and lectures and everything else came later. But he would distribute prasad freely, right? And then the urge of the belly, which is what he calls it udara vegam, overeating or eating more than necessary. So he says regulated eating supports spiritual life, right? We should never overeat. Then the urge of genitals, which is he called as upastha vegam. He's saying the sexual impulse is very strong. It should be regulated within dharma, marriage, and ultimately purified through bhakti. So hence very important that sex should only be limited to marriage. And ultimately that also should get purified by bhakti. So what is the core teaching? The core teaching is if one controls these six urges, he becomes dhira or steady and sober. Without controlling these higher spiritual topics cannot be understood properly. And this basically sets the foundation of bhakti: control, purification, steady devotion, and hence spiritual leadership. Because these urges are what puts us down, right? And it's a very simple process. I told you: chant Hare Krishna, follow the four regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, gambling. Actually, I call it GIMI: gambling, no gambling, no intoxication, and no meat eating, and I no illicit sex, and following the quota. All these just three things: chant, follow the four regulative principles, and follow the quota, and upward movement will happen, right? Um, and so, how do we turn this around? We don't want negation of the senses. We need to positively engage the senses, right? And if you look at Gandhiji, right, he had this. We are all familiar with the three monkeys. Right, one was closing the eyes, one was closing the ear, and one was closing the mouth. But that's not possible. We don't want to cover our eyes. We want to see the deity form of the Lord with our eyes. We don't want to close our ears. We want to hear Krishna Katha like what you are doing right now. We don't want to cover our mouth. We wanted to use to chant Hare Krishna and eat prasadam, right? So Krishna mainly is teaching us in this whole chapter 3, right? We don't have to run away from our daily activities, right? And we can clearly see from our own habits right? What is more attractive to you? Are we more Brahmin? Are we more Kshatriya? Are we more Vaishya and Shudra, right? If you're brimming with business ideas all the time, you're a business person, right? If you like to be in a job and working properly, then we are all Shudras, right? If you like to fight and all the time, typically police people and all are Kshatriyas, right? Or people who want to really be in politics and all are Kshatriyas. And Brahmana is one who basically focuses on spiritual knowledge, spiritual understanding, and so on and so forth. And they are very clearly around one or two of these, right? Overall. For example, I'm doing a job, so I'm like a Shudra, but I also am attracted to spiritual things. So combination of that. So I think it's very clear if you look at your own habits, what really attracts you, right? Overall. The problem is that all of this got linked to casteism or something, and that's why people started to say, oh, this is casteism, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Actually, a Brahmin son is not a Brahmin, right? A doctor's son is not a doctor. A lawyer's son is not a lawyer. You have to qualify for that. To become a doctor, even if you're a doctor's son, you have to pass the MBBS MD. To become a lawyer, you still have to get your LLB, right? Overall. And depending upon your nature, you may perform one of the duties, right? For example, there's a story of Rishabh Dev. He had 100 sons. Nine of them became Parahamsas. 81 became Karmakandi Brahmanas. And 10 of them became Kshatriyas, right? Because this was as per their gunas and karma. So within a family also, the people could be different, right? And depending upon your activity and quality, we can find out who we are, right? Whether you're a doctor, engineer, BA, BCom, CA, each one of you has a prescribed duty, right? And the Nishkam Karma Yoga is about you do your duty, follow the quota system, purify your consciousness, connect to Bhakti Yoga means accepting Krishna as the supreme, chanting the holy name, following the four regulative principles, GIMI. Please copy this GIMI. It is something you should take to life. It's the most important thing, right? As part of your bhakti process beyond chanting and everything else. No gambling. I'm repeating it, I think, third or fourth time. No gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating, no illicit sex. Right? Um, and offer if you're connected with ISKCON, then then accept Srila Prabhupada as your acharya, because he's the one who's offering these books to you, offering this knowledge to you. And very quickly you will become enlightened, have developed the loving devotion to God, and with that loving devotion, you will get great bliss and happiness that will make all these petty pleasures of the world meager or insignificant. Right? So that's essentially the sum of the chapter through of the chapter three. Right? Do your activity according to your gunas. Uh, you know, do your chanting and follow the regulative principles and do it in a quota. Right? The GMI principles and quota. And eternal happiness is right up for up for you, right? So this is chapter three, and we can see if there are any questions that we can take. If you can put the video on, and we can quickly do some questions. Manish, Rahul, Rinaji, no questions?
No, I'm clear, Lalit. Ji, no questions abhi.
Okay. Rinaji?
No question.
Okay,
Maybe
good.
Lalit ji, एक चीज जो आपने बताया, right, जो circle है, right, the circle intoxication includes both cigarettes, alcohol, everything, right? But जो आपने कोटा बताया है, एक बार कोटा को फिर से एक बार explain कर दीजिए, so it comes to life for me.
Okay, let me share the quota with you again. I had it in my notes. I'll just bring it. This is the quota we spoke about, right? Uh, in the
I'm just writing it out.
yeah. You can copy it. You can take a screenshot.
Okay, I've taken the notes.
Yeah.
Ji.
Yeah, so I think it's not difficult, right? Actually, living a life which is full of values and Krishna in the center. I think we just don't take to it, right? Very see 3 or 4 simple things we need to do to get eternal happiness and success and everything that we want in life. I think most of us miss out on that because we continue to think we are controllers, we are everything. We disconnect from Krishna, and that's the cause of all the issues and the problems that we go through in our life. Very, very simple piece. Right? And that's why, last few 1, 2 classes I've been talking about chanting, right? You're already hearing. If you're reading along with, this will take you to another level, right? Because Prabhupada's purports are out of the world, right? So when you hear and then you go back and read, it's just outstanding, right? In fact, I've started to read again Bhagavad Gita before every class. I'm ensuring I'm reading and coming to you, right? Rather than doing this like this overall. So it's just every time, even I read it for the nth time also, it's so much new revelations come on the way, which I'm able to share with you some of this, right? For example, today I felt like talking about the 16,000 queens, right? Overall. And it clarifies thoughts so much in our life, right? I mean, the question like, why does Krishna need to do stuff like like us? Why does he need to get up in the morning? Why does he need to pray? Why does he need to chant? In fact, Prabhupada says, what is he chanting? He's chanting his own name. So, right, and so he does that to tell us that we have to live a life like this, right? And he's still a grahastha, he's still doing his duties, he's still taking care of his children, still taking care of his wife. It's just outstanding, right? So what simple act, it's not as difficult. We just have to get Krishna in the center of things that we do. Not leave everything, be in a career, be successful, get the positions, money, business, whatever we want to do. Just connect Krishna to it. Very, very, very simple. And then, everything just opens up for us. Any thoughts and how have you been feeling? I think given few of you, is it helping you all in your journey?
I think it has added calmness to me when I come home, right? Whatever work I have done, like how hectic it was, control or calm happened in my, like I'm able to separate my work and home now and be calmer at home. Ki okay, kal ka kal dekhenge, but let's complete my chanting and everything and then go to bed. So calmness hai mere now.
So nice. Yeah, that's the start of happiness. Yeah. Anybody else? Manish, do you want to share or Rina, do you want to share? Okay, good. I think so. I'm not forcing you to share, so up to you. But hopefully these are helping, and let's continue on it. I think this time we had a lesser number of team, but I think Prabhupada's taught us that even if there's one person, we should continue preaching. So thank you for joining, and even one soul, if it is able to go back to Godhead because of whatever efforts we make, Rinaji, like you're organizing all of this, all of that, I think you've achieved the highest perfection of life. So yeah, thank you for joining and thank you for attending. Hopefully this has been helpful and helping you move more internal from whatever externally we do every day in our lives. You're on mute. We can't hear you, Rinaji.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Thank you, Lalitji, for giving us very good values and teachings of Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure it's a slow learning process and it will gradually grow, and we all will experience changes in our life through Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key things is keep doing it. And that itself is half the job done. Okay, all right. I think we finished a little early. And have a great weekend, whatever is left of it. And then see you next Sunday. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.